Hey guys, just me flying solo here at the beginning, but Shelley and Tony Boydell join me shortly for a revisionist top 10 of 2019. Shelley and I did a video like this in January, but after playing more of the games that we got in 2019, we've added a few, and for the fourth time, we have our fourth annual joining with Tony Boydell, but Shelley's joining us, so it's not just Tony and I and audio, it's Shelley, Tony, and me, and video. So stay tuned. This is 10 through 6, as well as a discussion of some of the stuff Tony's been doing during this quarantine. He's been doing a lot of designing. So please, if you would, make sure you subscribe. Head over to the podcast and make sure you are subscribed to the podcast as well. And we look forward to bringing you more of these videos. And stay safe and take care, everybody. Tony Boydell, how you doing?
Hi guys, yeah, I'm doing all right actually. Yeah, it's very pleasant. The sun is setting. I have a beer. I have a comfortable chair in my favorite room of the house. So yeah, it's pretty good actually. All my family's here.
Excellent. The games are behind you. We did a little setup so that we could be nearer the router. If we were out in the game room, this would be much fuzzier quality. So we have been doing this. I think it's now, this is year 3 or 4 of our.
I think it's 4, isn't it?
Yeah, of going through a top 10, and we'll get to that. But given the unusual circumstances of this situation, I figured we'd give somebody a visual to see our scary mugs, and we could get Shell on here, and we could all do this together and have something for the people to watch a little bit. Before we get to that top 10, though, as we were saying before I started recording, you have been rather prolific in your design. What's been going on, man?
Well, yeah, I have a lot of time. I have a lot of time to do stuff. I mean, I'm working from home. I'm in the room where all my games are. That's where I do my work from. I'm quite quick at my work anyway, and so I tend to, if I take a break during the day, it's usually just to pick up my notebook and sketch something or write a few notes. But also, as quite a few people have done during this period, they've been cleaning out the house, and I've been finding old notebooks and old prototypes and old bits and pieces around the place, and I'm thinking, well, I've got the time now. Before I wouldn't have had the time. We'd have done something with a family or visited somebody, then it would have been back on the horse, drive down, go to work, come back on, whatever it is. So all this time has meant that I can actually sort of think about these things a little bit more, and I've been very, very fertile with my game design. I'm really pleased, because there are times as a game designer when you see a few, like last year I had 6 things out, I think, across the year, and I'm thinking, okay, that's the cupboard there now. What do I do next? And thankfully, this period of time has given us contemplation time. Good.
Yeah. Good. I liked the 3D one that you put up here. The holes in it. You're going to use magnets and everything.
Yeah, it's based on Zigzag Hunekaka. Do you know that old Zoc game where it's a memory game? You have 12 pictures which are face down and they're mixed up, and then you have a board with 2 copies of each of the 12 pictures in a circle. And the idea is you try and catch up with your opponent. If you leapfrog over them, you take one of their tail feathers. It's a beautiful game. It's a real beauty of a family game. And we used to play.
Oh, I know that one. Yeah.
So much when the kids were young. And I thought it'd be great to do something a bit like that. But it's that for movement. So in order to move around and through the moon in 3 dimensions, you need to find a card with a picture on. But some of the cards have penalties if you pick them up by mistake. So if you're looking for the oxygen tank, but you pick up the boulder by mistake, it'll have a little cross on the bottom that says, if you pick this up by mistake, miss you next turn, because basically a boulder has fallen on you. So it's that idea, but with an extra layer of silliness on top.
Sure.
A little bit of Tony magic, as I like to say.
Of course, there you go. Yes, Tony magic. I like it.
Is it going to be designed for kids or for family or for
family? Yeah, family game. Yeah.
Oh.
It's my view of a family game, you see, is that it should be playable by gamers without them going, oh God, this is really simple. So Ivor the Engine, when I did that, I tested it on gamers, and so they were coming up with card combos, and I was happy that they were doing it. And it wasn't the behavior you get from a family playing it, but it meant I knew that it would work for both camps, because there was a big crossover in that particular design of players who knew the IP, who liked our kind of board games. So
Sure.
to make it something really simplistic would have been daft. And then when I did the Gruffalo stuff, working with Brett Gilbert and Andrew Harmon, EA Games, again, we were trying to find games that were accessible for 4 years and above, but trying to take those Haber and Zoc lessons, saying that family and children's games don't have to be overly simplistic to be good fun and sort of understandable. You know?
Sure.
Right. Yeah.
That's
Get
great.
the kids to reach up when they come to play these games, rather than playing down to a simplistic, an overly simplistic theme. So
Yes.
yeah, it's quite nice to go from a, you know, complex Euro games to family games to party games. You know, it's good fun. I like the mix that I get involved in.
Yeah, I love seeing your blog. It's wonderful, and because knowing you, I get to see and experience all aspects of Tony. So I appreciate that.
It helps us feel like the distance isn't so far.
Yes.
Because, you know, you get to still have contact with the person, even if you're not seeing them all the time.
Yeah.
It's really great. It's really great.
So are you playing games? You got a whole clan there to play with.
Well, they're not. I mean, I've got the biscuit game, not that one, that I designed a couple of weeks ago. They played that because it's actually quite simplistic. It's a ladder climbing game. You know, it's a bit like Too Many Cooks, Knizia's, where you're trying to get close to a number but not over it.
Sure.
But it's different because it's got biscuits. You know, you're all dunking biscuits into a big cup of tea. But you don't want to be the guy that dunks the last biscuit in and it leaves you with nothing but the sludge. So they'll play games like that because it is very simplistic. But they won't play anything else. I have tried. I said, come on, play Attention All Shipping with me. It's not that complicated. It's all about the theme. And no, not tonight, Dad. We're too tired. No. I've got to go and sleep.
But you're doing some virtual gaming. I saw that you're getting on with your local group and trying to do a little bit of that, huh?
We are, but there's an element of where I spend all day in this library room doing my work. So the idea of then coming out for supper on a Friday and coming back into the room again, it just feels a bit weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. I also miss being in the same room as them all. I mean, the banter and the jakes that we have, it's irreplaceable. So occasionally I'll slip in and we'll play something on Yukata, but it's difficult. I play a couple of things. I'm playing Innovation and Race for the Galaxy on BGA at the moment. And I'm doing terribly because those games I really love being in the room and looking at people's tableaus and being able to think about what's going on. It's so much harder to do it when you can't speak to the person or banter with them or even easily see what's on the table. It's not the same scrolling up and down as it is simply sort of looking around. It feels too detached. So I miss combos and I miss good moves and I lose horribly. So yeah, it's weird. It's not really a replacement for me, which I guess maybe is why I'm digging into the design a bit more.
No, I understand that idea that, you know, one of the things with our job is that though we use technology in teaching and such, it's not something we are on constantly at school, especially for Shell. And so to then use technology after using technology all day is pretty tough. We're going to try doing we are having happy hours, the end of the week happy hours with a couple of our groups, and we're going to try the code names thing, which that's the right level for the group that we've got. So we're going to try. They've come out with a nice little code names gadget, which has on the phone, which gives you the key, and you can actually share that with somebody else who has the app. So I really like that idea.
Brilliant.
So I'm going to do that. But other than that, it's very nice to have my gaming partner in the house with me. So.
But having said that, you know, since this has happened, we really aren't learning new games because we're emotionally too drained.
Yeah.
So we're playing some old games that are more, you know, usually lighter. And
we got Flower Power out the other day.
Some not really nice games that we haven't played for a while. I was like, I just feel like I want to do something that has to do with being outdoors. So let's play Flower Power. You know, I mean, because you You just feel like you don't want to do so much tech all the time. And now that we're working in the house, like you said, you're working in your office, and then, you know, to go back into your office to do gaming is hard. And so we feel like we can't really escape from work. So we work till very late every night because we still have stuff to do.
And it's draining. I mean, I record all of the games that I play face-to-face on BGG. And, you know, I'm averaging a game a day, you know, 30 for the first 3 months. And then this month, with, you know, we're at the 22nd day of the month, we've played 9 total games.
And they're short. They're short games, like a roll and ride and, you know,
All right, let's move on to something happier, though. And so I think it would be good if each time, so we'll start with the goddess here, and, you know, ladies first, and then we'll move to you, Tony, and then me, okay? So we'll kind of do that as we go through.
Okay.
All right?
Are we doing any honorables or just keeping them in the background?
These are some honorable mentions.
Well, I've got a couple of honorables on my list, but
Okay.
Save that for when it comes around to me. That's fine.
Okay, so Shell, do you want to talk about your honorable mentions? We put them behind us here.
Yeah. Well, I loved Brussels.
The card game.
The card game.
That's what we played in Essen.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's fantastic. Such a super, I love the area majority components and the cards, and I just think it's brilliant. Probably should still be on my top list, but there's so many great games, right? And then, of course, Montmartre, I really liked, especially the 2-player, which is how we played it. So very beautiful and really simple, but it's fun to think about what the other person's going to do. And I don't know, it's just really straightforward and great. And of course, Papillon, because it's so beautiful and
3D
Carcassonne-esque game, but you are drafting your pieces. So you see all the pieces that are available. You have gnomes and you're putting little clipped butterflies on stuff. It's just so beautiful. So those are my honorable mentions.
Well, we did a one of these in January. So these were ones that were on Shelley's list and may have lost some of their sheen as we've played other things.
It's just that other things are more what I want to play right now.
Right.
The other one that dropped off my list was, and I still like it, is Welcome To. It's just I'm a tad burnt out on the roll and write genre right now. So, but I know that's going to come back especially because there's
a lot
games, shorter games that I need to be playing that are lighter, that are straightforward for this time.
Well, don't tell anybody else, but myself and Matt Dunstan are designing a Snowdonia the dice game.
Ooh.
Oh, I love dice.
It's not roll and write, but it's dice drafting with 54 different railways in the one game.
Well, I like that.
That's awesome. Love it.
Never let it be said that I won't exploit this particular udder full of gaming milk to its fullest potential. Okay?
You must do this. It's important.
All right. What are some of your honorable mentions?
Well, I've got a couple. Wingspan, oddly, is on my honorable mentions because I really think it's a fantastic presented game. I think it's a really lovely flowing game, but I've kind of fallen out of love with playing it because I've really noticed that if you don't get a reasonable starting hand, you're just sitting around waiting for somebody else to finish the game. You can feel quite isolated in the sense that you just can't really compete. You spend the first half of the game just trying to get a decent starting position, and if everyone else has a decent starting position, but then that's the kind of game it is. I'm not expecting Through the Ages or an 18xx experience out of Wingspan, and I'll happily play it, but it's not made it into my top 10. It will, of course, win absolutely everything in the Golden Geeks. We know this, you know this, everybody knows this, and deservedly so, because Elizabeth has done a fine old job, and fair play to Stonemaier for doing what they do to sort of finesse and present these things in the right way. I mean, if it'd been presented in a way that lots of other companies might have presented it without the budget of a Stonemaier, for instance, I don't think it would have captured quite the audience.
True.
But it deserves an honorable mention because it is a fine piece of work, but it's not really for me, which is why it's only in the mentions. And the other thing is DANY, D-A-N-Y, which is I've described it here as a saucy Freudian French version of Dixit with a hidden traitor.
Okay.
With a hidden train?
Traitor.
Oh, traitor. Oh.
Yeah. So one player is trying to get a particular result of too many failed guesses, and the the other players are trying to get a certain number of successful guesses, and it's basically Dixit. There's a term that has to be defined, and the game tells you what that is, and everybody else has to kind of guess what you're trying to define as the active player. But the traitor wants you to guess it incorrectly, but everyone else wants you to guess it correctly. And the thing is, being French in origin, some of the words that you have to make are a little bit saucy, to say the least. But it's good fun.
And you like
DANY.
You like being the traitor, of course.
Well, not really. I'm pretty good at guessing what a traitor is, though. I don't like being a traitor normally. Yeah. It was fun being a Cylon, but only for the first game when everyone picks on you, and then it's like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, I gotcha.
I want to win the game. Yeah. DANY and Wingspan are my honourable mentions for 2019.
All right, Shell, what is your... mine. So my two that have dropped off my top 10 since January. The first one is Lighthouse Run, which is a great little racing game. And you hand management where you are playing cards. You have to move the lighthouse beacons so that the boats that you want to move forward that round are shining on the water, right? So that one's a really cool one. Unusual for Amigo. And then the other one is Parks, which came out and is our national parks, and it's just really beautifully done. I think the Kickstarter of it is just gorgeous. So both of those were my honorable mentions. You're moving along a path trying to get to the parks. So
since
fun
our parks
games.
are closed,
yeah,
we're playing that later today because I need to be getting out into nature. So
all right, Shell's number 10.
And if you haven't played it, you definitely should. It's called Paris, La Cité de Lumière. And it is stunning, so gorgeous. I mean, your mouth will just drop open. But what's really cool about it, it has two parts to it. Kind of like, Biblios, Dr. Finn type games where you're doing something first, making the board first, and then you are playing your pieces onto the board. So it's a very small little grid, maybe 5 by 5 or something like that. And
you carry on talking because I just didn't realize that I could do this. So I'm going to go and collect my games. Keep talking. I can hear you.
All right, I'll keep talking about this great game and check it out. But each piece has your color, your player's color, the opponent's, the 2-player only version, this 2-player only game. Your color, the other player's color, and then a neutral color, and then streets.
And they're 3D.
And the 3D.
And then the cards.
And so basically you build the board, and then after you build the board, you start putting your pieces on. And you see what pieces people have drafted. So that's kind of cool. So they could build theirs there, or they put the neutral color to be next to theirs so they could build this piece. And as you're building the board, you're also drafting the pieces you're going to play in the second portion of the game. And then there are these special power cards that Doug is just showing, these postcards that are stunning. And then those are used to change the game up slightly. Like you might be adding a dancer who likes to have certain things that qualifications for her in the world that you've just built. Or you have an artist, or you have an annex that slides into your other pieces. So, I mean, it is just so visually stunning.
Yeah.
And this is definitely something that we can play today too.
Yeah, Devere has not been very well known for their great quality games in a couple things. Like there was that Barcelona game that unfortunately was beautiful but didn't succeed. This one is a big success, and it's player only.
And it's so pretty
and fits in that nice little Cosmos 2-player square box size. So really like that
and
one.
If you like games where you it's 2 parts like that, this one part that you have to foresee what's going to happen later, and then you do the second part. It just is really awesome.
Tony has made his pile now. He's got it. All right. Well done, Tony. That was great.
That was quick.
Oh, that sounds interesting. That sounds really, I mean, you guys get so many different games. I mean, I suppose I always look for the weirdy stuff, and I tend to miss a lot of the good, sort of friendly, lighter stuff. I seem to be a little bit pretentious in my purchases. So
no, Tony, no, don't do that.
But saying that, my number 10 is Megacity Oceania.
Okay.
Designed by Michael Fox and Jordan Draper. Jordan Draper, of course, doing those wonderful Tokyo series games. And Michael Fox, of course, just Billy Kerr and Megacity Oceania and lots of other stuff. And just the tactile nature of this game, that moment, that breath-holding moment when you're sliding your hex with its little building on it just across the table and everybody's holding their breath because you don't want anything to fall over. And I think the genius of it, because, you know, you draft the designs and you take the pieces you need to build it. That's all very straightforward. But I think the genius bit is that you have to build between your turns. And if you want to push your building completed into the middle to start scoring some points, you have to be ready. If it comes around to you and you're not ready to do it, then you have to do something else. And then you have to carry on building. It's a genius way of keeping the whole thing sort of real time and flowing. Fantastic game, Megacity Oceania.
Okay, well, you know, that's one that we need to hunt down because sounds really great.
Yeah, sounds awesome.
Okay, so my number 10 is a roll and write or a draw and draw. This is Trails of Tucana, one of maybe a couple that Aporta games from Elif Svensson and Christian Otsby. What I really like about this is it's kind of a middleweight draw and draw in that you've got cards, you've got an odd number of cards in the deck. You're going to do all but one of them, so there is that sense of mystery. Okay, which one might not show up? And the cards are the various land types. So it's going to say, oh, you've got to draw between a forest and water, and you're just going to draw a single line between forest and water somewhere on your board, and you're trying to connect up cities that are on the outside. You get bonus drawings and stuff like that. I just really enjoyed this, and the fact that, and I really love when these roll and writes or draw and draws do it properly, is either both sides of the sheets have a different map on them, like this, or they use both sides of the sheet. I hate the waste in some of these roll and writes, and this one has a completely different map on the other side. It's bigger, and so that makes it that much cooler. So Trails of Tucana is my number 10.
Yeah, that is a great one. I agree, dear. Well, this one I love, and of course you can see it's incredibly beautiful. It's called Horticulture Master, and it's by I forget who now.
Don't worry.
Okay, well, it's by some great designer,
Elsa and Kiko Su.
And this is kind of well, it has some of that cottage garden feel, but it is different. There's cards that you're drafting to get certain types of landscape pieces.
Tetris pieces.
Yeah, Tetris pieces. And if you're the first person to get those pieces, then you get a little animal that gives you bonus points, but the animals are really cute too.
Shelley loves the animals.
I love how cute everything is on it. But you also need to get certain tools to help you out to make things go faster and better. And everybody sees the same cards, and so you're going to be drafting them in a specific manner so everybody knows what's coming up. And I think it is a lot of fun. If you like cottage garden, I would say you should try this because it is quite different than that. And it's still a super great game.
All right, number 10.
Horticulture Master. Horticulture Master, was that right?
Yeah, Horticulture Master. All right.
Your number 9.
9.
My number 9 is King Thief Minister.
Oh, yes, we played this.
Yeah, this is the game I got from, we played it at the Spiel, didn't it? The hotel.
Yeah.
I played it quite a lot of times since. I got my irradiated spare piece. That's pretty good. My hair's not fallen out yet, so I'm all right there. But it's one of those games. It has the feel of one of those deduction games, a bit like Masquerade, Bruno Feduti's game. But I always found Masquerade incredibly painful to play because I didn't have a bloody clue what was going on at any point in that game. Whereas this game, I'm actually quite good at. And it's basically, you have 6 rolls, and they are distributed randomly at the start of the game. And you're allowed to look at one roll that's not in front of you at the start of the game to give you a bit of information. And you have 3 coins each. And if you want to look at your own card, it costs you a coin. You can look at somebody else's card, I think it is. And you can rotate the cards. Yeah. You can then accuse somebody of being a particular role. And they can either agree, I think you're the minister, Well, I know. So I think I am the minister. See, I've played it so many times, I've forgotten the bloody rules to it. But I can announce a roll, and if everybody thinks that's right, I get to execute the action, so which is usually taking money off people, because the idea is to have the most money when the game ends, and the game ends when all the money's gone from the middle as a pool of cash. But if somebody thinks you're not that person, they can dispute you, and then there's a sort of a secret viewing of the cards, which will then determine, everyone else will then know whether you were lying or telling the truth, because if you were fibbing and you're caught out, you have to pay money to the center of the table. So as the game goes on, within a couple of rounds of the table, everybody's got a pretty good idea of who they think everybody is amongst the 6 roles, including any spare spaces that will have blank. There'll be no players that own those roles. And then what you're either trying to do is to exploit the abilities to get all the money, or what most often happens is you want to be the peasant, who basically, if you are the peasant and you get to do the peasant's ability, you name what everybody else is. And if you do that successfully, you win the game. And I think that's the way we won the game when we played it at the hotel last year.
Yes, I do remember.
And that's the way most people seem to win it. And it's really satisfying when that happens. Yeah, King, Thief, Minister.
Very cool.
Great.
All right, my number 9 is an expansion for a classic. There are 4 of these huge maps for Carcassonne. This is the Carcassonne, the French map. There is a Benelux map. There is a Great Britain map and a Germany map. All of them have little tweaks to the rules, but just having the framework of the country itself and some already printed on city tiles and stuff that you can build into. It just we haven't played Carcassonne in forever, and just that you slip right back into it. It's just so fun. And so these 4 maps were the best. One of the best finds. It's like, oh, maps, and then Shelley looks at me and goes, how are you going to fit those huge things in? I'm like, I'm going to tuck it around. It's going to be great. And I got them all home. And they're on this great vinyl, and it's, I love them. So the 4 maps for Carcassonne that just came out at the last Hans im Glück, and I think you can order them online from Hans im Glück, and they're worth it. So that's my number 9. All right, Shelley, what's your number 8?
My number 8 is the Concordia expansion. Concordia is a game that we love really a lot, and it's been around since like 2013, and we always get all the maps and such. But I would say of all of them, and I really appreciated those maps too, but I would say this would be like a necessary expansion because it actually does make the game even better, which I already thought it was a solid game anyway. So basically, when you would go to Prefect, which is going into where you would get your resources from the regions that you're involved in, you now are getting fish as well as those resources. And then there's a little fish track, which allows you to, it goes in a circle. You could decide where you want to start. And if you pay the fish, you get the rewards on it too. So it's kind of like you can have some really awesome moves. It's like 2 actions almost at one time. Yeah. So, and it just makes it even more fun. It doesn't add any length to the game. The game is already meaty and long as it is. So I think it's a perfect expansion because sometimes you want to play games you already know how to play. You still want to play a hard game, but you want to play something that doesn't require you to learn a whole new thing, but just adds a nice wrinkle to make it just that much better. Yes. So it's a really fun expansion.
And the nice thing about good expansions don't make the game, exponentially longer.
Or fiddly
or something. Exactly.
This is so easy to fit in. It's only when you do the Prefect, you only have 2 of those cards each round. Well, depending on when you pull your cards back in your hand, but you don't have that many of those. You could duplicate with your partner stuff, your opponent's things. But it's a really good addition.
Yeah, we had fun with Concordia. All right, Tony, what's the rate? Oh, sorry.
I was going to say Concordia is a fantastic game, and anything. I mean, it's first on my list as well at Eston to go and see what Mac has got out because I need to keep my collection up to date. I play it quite a lot online. I'm not very good at it, and I sort of blow hot and cold with it. I get fed up sometimes, but I always come back to it because it is
painful.
Yeah, it's a wonderful game.
Right behind you, by the way, on the shelf there.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I got all my Mac games there. Yeah. So my number 8 is a game called Scrumpy, which you won't see in the shops yet because it isn't out. It's going to be kickstarted later in the year, but it's designed by a friend of mine, a guy that runs the HandyCon convention in the UK, and it happens twice a year. Well, it would normally happen twice a year. Obviously, I don't think it's going to happen again this year. But it's a sort of a multi-use card. It's a deck building, deck thinning game where you're basically growing apples and turning them into cider or fine apple wines, or big bottles and barrels of cider, and then you're selling them off. What's really nice is that your deck has personalities in it that do different jobs, so that they chop the wood or they get you the apples or whatever it might be that you need for the cider. And then you can add to that from a tableau of incoming sort of helpers, or you can thin your deck down to make sure you're only getting the actions that you want. But if you use an action or use a card to be an apple, because the cards on the back have different icons on the different 4 points, so you can be used as wood or an apple or a bottle of cider or whatever it might be. It's out of your hands. So until you make use of that as a resource, you can't get that hand back. So you might give away a particular role at the start of the game to be an apple. And then halfway through a couple of rounds later, you think, well, I really need that guy back, but he's currently an apple. So I've got to do something with this apple. Otherwise, I can't get him back into my hands and I can't use him. So it's about optimizing the flow of cards between the different regions. So the rules are really straightforward. I mean, it is a sort of recipe fulfillment side of things. That's where you get the most of your points. But it's that wonderful element of having to manage the flow of your deck of cards around. So it's not like one deck and a discard pile. It's multiple discard piles effectively where they're used as resources. And you have to time when they come out of those discard piles. Scrumpy by Paul Harris. Absolutely fantastic game. Played it as a prototype, and I was going to take it to Portugal with me to give it a bit of a wider test there with the guys, from our European company. These companies, all the pals we've got there. But I'm really looking forward to that coming out, so I want to play it again. The only problem with not working in London at the moment is I don't get to go and play at Maidenhead on a Monday night, and I wouldn't get to play Scrumpy for a while. So Scrumpy is my number 8.
All right. Well, my number 8 is the only game that I don't have with me because I have loaned it to somebody, and the situation. And that is a little game by a gentleman by the name of Tony Boydell. It is Alubari.
Oh, bless you.
I just love this game. So I like Snowdonia a lot, and I have the huge collector's edition box out in the garage. But what I like about Alubari is it uses I like the chai mechanism of being able to bolster an action more, and I also like the fact that the rails are already there on the board. And so then the removal of the rubble is in the T area, and that it changes the dynamic. And I don't know the sense for me. Sometimes Snowdonia has that frustration factor of we need to remove the rubble, but I don't want to be the person who removes the rubble because then I'm setting somebody else up to do the action. Well, you do that a little bit in the T area, but it's not. It's still really important, but it's not the train part. And so I like that bifurcation of those two things. And so Alubari is just stellar. And so Tony, awesome job.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I suggest you guys need to break your electronic gaming ban and try out Macabari, which is the 2-player version of Alubari on Tabletopia. And it's 2-player in the same way that Foothills is 2-player to Snowdonia. It's the same theme and the same ideas, but with a completely different way of doing your action. And this time it's rondel based. Yeah. So it's all set up on Tabletopia. It's all published there. So if you ever want a game, I can give you a game, show you how to play it. It's dead easy. You played Alubari, so most of it will make absolute sense to you.
All right. Well, we will check that out. That's something to look forward to. All right. Number 7, Shell.
My number 7 is 1987 Channel Tunnel. It's 2-player only, and it's a game that one of you plays France, the other one, of course, plays England.
Yeah.
So, and you're working to race kind of to get to the center to finish the tunnel. Just because you get to the center first doesn't mean you're going to win. There's all these actions and cards that you have to manage, and it has really great. You like pull tokens from a bag that you stack up. and that's going to determine your actions because you have to do them by color. So you're constantly trying to figure out where to put your pile because it has to be bigger than the pile that's already there.
Yeah.
But then when you put your pile of tokens to do the action, you get to take those others and put them into yours. So there's this ebb and flow of trying to figure out what's the best place to go and the order in which to do it. And the cards do so many interesting things. It's just a brilliant game, and I love it.
All the looping games we've really enjoyed. The 1906 San Francisco has been really good. Really powerful.
Yeah, I got San Francisco. Yeah, I got San Francisco. I've got Scott vs. Amundsen as well somewhere. Yeah, they're great little games, aren't they?
We love the San Francisco one too.
Definitely. Yeah. Looking forward to playing
I like them.
Yeah, the 1945 one. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that I like them because there's a lot of game in a small box.
Yep.
And so you get a really incredible value for money because you're getting a really big game feel. And I think that's a really good place to design.
So little, you could take this on vacation. It's so little.
All right, what's your number 7?
Number 7, right? This is a heavy box, so I just don't want to do myself an injury.
Don't do that.
It's a game called Miremarsh. Now, this is a game designed by a friend of mine, Matt Green, and his pal, Sam. I think it's Sam. It is Sam Mercer. I can never remember Sam's surname. Matt is an old Magic the Gathering sparring partner of mine from many years ago. When I say sparring partner, I mean he used to beat me in every single game we ever played. However, he is a fantastic game designer, and he has a very lovely. He and Sam have a very lovely twist on things. And Miremarsh is a sort of quest game in the sense that you roll some dice in your turn, and the dice that you roll are depending on what goblin you're currently playing, and there are a whole series of different goblins, and you roll these dice and you can move, you can fight, you can gain special tokens, and you can gain money, and you're trying to use these to effectively to get more dice to roll because they allow you to move into zones in the marsh, and each zone as it radiates away from the middle has progressively more difficult things to do on them. So if you move onto a tile, you have to do at least a basic quest, which is do this, otherwise your goblin dies. It might be just use up 2 feet from the dice that you've rolled, or reuse up 2 swords. And as you radiate away into the level 2 and the level 3 and the level 4s, they get progressively more difficult. And the idea is to just finish a level 4 successfully and you win the game. But you will do this by getting through at least 2 or 3 goblins. Don't get too attached to your character because he will die. Thankfully, when he dies, all of his property basically drops around where he died. So your new character, reincarnated, can chase after him and pick up all the stuff that he dropped when he died. And it's tremendous fun. Arthur and I have a lot of fun playing it. It's got some lovely miniatures, which adds to the atmosphere. It's a lot of fun, and it plays in about an hour. It's a lot of fun. It's not heavy. It's got that lovely push your luck element to it. Miremarsh by Matt Green and Sam Mercer.
Okay. All right. My number 7 is another M game. It is The Magnificent. And this is more Tetris stuff going from Aporta games as well. So my number 10 and my number 7 are both from Aporta. Aleph Svensson and Christian Oxby doing these. This is a much bigger game than Trails of Tucana, of course. Here, I was kind of turned off by the artwork at first, but I'm liking it more as I go through because it's very Cirque du Soleil type art, and you are circus performers, and you're running a circus, and you're using, you're putting on performances and building out stuff on your board, and it has some very cool dice drafting elements as you are going through. So The Magnificent is my number 7.
Well, you know what?
I should have picked that one up. I mean, it was a bit of hot business, wasn't it, at Essen last year? And it was
this was one of the hotness, definitely.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Shelley's
my
number
next
6
one is called Promenade.
This is for you, Tony. You would like this a lot.
This has a little bit of that Dominion feel with stock market mixed in. You're basically you're getting art to put on art in an art museum, and each art museum likes to get different types of art, maybe animals, maybe portraits, this type of landscapes, that type of thing. And sometimes your art can be used as money. Sometimes your art is used to be put into the museum, and sometimes the art is used to pay to have an exhibit put on.
Right.
So it's used in different ways. It's so stunningly beautiful. The banks, it's like the Mary Cassatt Bank. I mean, it's all famous artists. They make references to. It really has everything that I love in a game in terms of beauty, but just so much fun to play.
Yeah,
I agree. I love it.
Okay.
I am spotting a theme here because obviously with Brussels, the card game, you have an element of art exhibitions in that, and you are living in this sort of bohemian period of Brussels sort of city culture.
I do love it. The game is really fun, and then the art just takes it up again. A lot of the ones that I love, the games are stunning, but the art does bring it up to more fun for me to play.
Yeah. All right, man. What's your number 6?
Right. Well, I don't have a copy of my number 6, but I played it and I was so struck by it that I can recommend that you basically go and have a look at the gaming rules videos, because I think Paul Grogan has done a video of playing Undaunted Normandy.
Okay.
It's a war game that mixes. It's basically Dominion with a wargaming theme. So if you have a deck of soldiers, and one of you plays the British or the Americans, and one of you plays the Germans, and you play out cards like you would in Dominion, and you move pieces, and you can recruit pieces, and you can try and snipe other players' pieces. And the idea is there's a whole variety of different setups and different maps, and the idea is to basically control a certain number of areas in order to win that scenario. And I played this with Ben Boffo-Bateson of the Ross and White Club, and he's a bit of a Dominion fiend, so he was far better at doing this. I haven't played Dominion for years, so he was far better at it, but then he's better at this kind of thing anyway. And I was absolutely incredibly impressed by the design. Undaunted Normandy really is a lot of game in a little box. A two-player
only?
building. It's two-player only deck building game.
Interesting. Okay. All right. All right. My number 6 is from earlier in the year, but I really enjoy this. Stefan Feld is one of our favorite designers, and Forum Trajanum came out, and it has, it's everything and the kitchen sink type game, it seems, because you've got 5 billion things on the board, and you got these tiny pieces over here. One of the cool aspects of the game that I really like is that every round you get tiles, and you have to give one to another player, and then you get one, and so that angst of that decision making is something that I really like in it. And it's just a Feldian design. It works really well, and is high up on my list, and something that I need to get to the table again soon.
Yeah. I mean, I like that the jeopardy of having to give things to other players. I mean, that's why drafting games are so great. That's why Seven Wonders is so wonderful, because you want 3 cards and you need that one, but actually you're giving that one to your opponent. And with Feld, of course, I think Notre Dame is an absolute genius piece of work.
Brilliant.
Because you have that same thing. You've got this hand of 3 cards, and you're only going to get one of your cards.
Right.
And you have to decide what it is you're passing. And there's that wonderful sort of overthinking element. If I give this to him, then he might have his garden. I haven't seen a garden come out with his color on it yet, and oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Yeah, that's a lovely piece of jeopardy. It's your own fault that the player next to you is winning, because you gave him the stuff to win with.
Exactly. That's good. All right, that'll do it for this video. Next time we are going to go over our games played in April, so that will come between numbers 5 and 1, which we've got coming then later in the week. So stay tuned. We're doing a lot more of these videos. Remember, subscribe down below, and we look forward to bringing you more videos in the future.